Bannacht you as facheriu da Shiaght Laa, Fiona McArdle mish. I'm Fiona McArdle. I'd like to welcome you to Shiaght Laa. In this first of the series of Shiaght Laa, on Shiaght Laa and Shiaght Show. Laa Bardacht an Tail, World Poetry Day, which is celebrated on the 21st of March. This year that will be this coming Saturday. So this edition of Shiaght Laa looks at some of the work that's been produced and is being produced in and about the island. In 1999, UNESCO, that's the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation, adopted the idea of World Poetry Day. They recognise poetry as an art form arising from the languages of their communities and how they can be used to create striking or novel images that express ideas and emotions. UNESCO's concern was that the concept of poetry was becoming something that appeared on a page, using some sort of poetic diction, a set of words and expressions that were thought to be poetic, but were little more than clichés. The concept of literacy gave prime importance to the written word, the printed word. That led many, particularly in the Western world, to think of other cultures that had flourishing oral cultures as illiterate, not just in the literal sense, but in a pejorative way of being uncultured, losing sight of the fact that their own cultures were originally based around oral tradition. Here in the island, the Deemsters used breast law. That's the laws as they carried them in their breast, having learned them through oral tradition, which is why certain families traditionally became associated with the law. The laws were passed down through generations of the same family, with the next generation learning by rote from the previous one. And it wasn't until 1415 that there was an attempt to write down Manx law for the first time. With developments such as rapping and poetry and performance at open mic nights and poetry slams, the celebration of the spoken word, the oral tradition, is again valued, though it never lost its value in many of the world's cultures.
Te emisut fiera as te maciawn golsus barul as geek quiche de mananan. Fiera. Red ten kazan chindeg as fair as clach, as ten ashuan and sheen at mach. Red odaku jichen mach as kiau sule ulya, as frail rick. Tad gred vel castel mua as pijigach. Shazu. Furchten. Tad gred vel halia flay mua chaustai, lesh mren as dania rinka as cloy kiola chera. Red ten glass of fair, roshten and gorman air. Tad gre vel pua olja nyat on lulai. Kuhn. Furchten. Red ten green iri as a sniachta tudjum. Tad gre vel caval elen as jesh. Shazu. Furchten. Red ten a bodgel and gial as len. Tad gre vel aeon. Jeeken harish. Frail rick. Shazu. Furchten. Furchten.
That's a poem being read by the person who wrote it, 17-year-old Matilda Watson of Peel, who's just been appointed as the 8th Manx Youth Bard. And you may have noticed that Matilda's poem was in Manx. Here she talks to Phil Gone.
I'm talking to Matilda Watson, the 8th Manx Youth Bard. Matilda, that's a fantastic achievement. What do you make of being the 8th Manx Youth Bard?
Gurmayad, I'm quite excited to be the Manx Bard. I'm very excited to do more work in Manx. I think it's a great opportunity, and I can't wait to help others with finding Manx in other aspects of the world, especially in poetry at the minute. With it being Year of the Manx, I think it's quite important to encourage that in all areas, so quite excited.
And you were lucky enough to benefit from an education at the Bunskull Gilgach, the Manx Language School at St John's. Has that driven you on in terms of promoting the language?
Oh, definitely, because I think a lot of people don't realise what Manx is, really, that it is a language, but being from the Bunskull, they don't just teach you Manx, they teach you what it means to be Manx and how it feels to be Manx. And I think it's very important for people in my position to show other people what it means and that we are just trying to live how we want to live, and that Manx is real and Manx is here. So Bunscoil is definitely to thank.
And you have unapologetically produced poems in Manx Gaelic. You don't have English alternatives.
No, for me, poetry is a Manx thing. It's always been in Manx. I've learned it through Manx. I've always appreciated the Manx poems just a little bit more. Not to say English poems are bad or anything, just Manx poems have always hit differently, and I think Manx poems are really important.
And that's quite a statement, really, because writing poetry isn't easy in any language, and the fact that you prefer to write in Manx Gaelic tells us a lot about what Manx means to you.
Yeah, it does. Writing poems isn't easy, but it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be but it's also not supposed to be a task. It's just when you feel it, you just go for it. I never really wrote poems down. They were always just circling around in my head, and if I thought one was nice, I just figured, I'll write it down. I'll give being the Manx Youth Bard a go. It'll be fun. Get some people inspired.
And you get to wear an amazing hat.
Oh yeah, I think I look super snazzy. I get this cool staff and the robe as well. I think this is just my new wardrobe from now on. Just wear it to school.
Marvellous. Well, you're going to recite a poem for us in Manx. Could you tell us a little bit about what the poem's about for those who aren't Manx speakers?
This poem is called Gilg. It's about Manx and how it feels to be a Manx speaker, and how it personally felt for me in the Bunscoil as a little kid speaking Manx, and how important it was to me. Tyn Fershaw emisit Gilg as Remy Scree Trevami Unts a Bunscoil, te McKeowna Gilg, Unts Gilg as te a first share Eliamps. Gilg. Te Gilg Ledger, Anjay Mannon, Anjay McCree. Doughty Riol, Fain Skeeladach. As tre Tammy Smunington Uri, Tammy Unts Sail Elia. Sail Pishigach as Len Devry. Sail Jesh as Manra. Sa tail Glor Royal Shore, Tyn a Lettern Gilg, Dancer Magiet, as Tyn Bunscoil, Goyle Morn.
Jinthamai. Well done, Matilda Watson, the 8th Manx Youth Bard.
Thank you very much, I'm very excited.
Moria Solida Matilda Watson, the 8th Manx Youth Bard.
To plan vega Tammy Golda Frele Bon Ecatreto and Och, Tammy just Giri Soldier Mactavel, Gil Gable de Veons, Dacholia Vol, Dacholia Anjay Manon, Dacholia Red Taujichin, as to show just Actelia de Currymac, as son Blaine Nagilga, Amps to Vieke Yindus Act again, the Smoo Gilg, Unts, Ram Acton and Casla, so Tammy Golda Pral de Grenyikish and the Smoo.
The idea of a Manx Youth Bard came after Bridge Carter, Hazel Tier and Di Benson had successfully developed the idea of an annual Manx Bard to promote the island through their poetry. Their idea has been supported by Culture Vannon and the Isle of Man Arts Council, and there's currently sponsorship too from the Aura Bar and Grill in Douglas. However, in the first year, to attract attention to the concept and to lead into what was to become an annual process of inviting applications and appointing someone for the year, the first Manx Bard was T.E. Brown.
Now, most of you lads has had a spell of courting and that, and it's hard to tell, however a youngster comes to fancy, that of all the girls it's Ginny or Nancy or Mary or Betsy that must be his'n. I don't know how it is or it isn't, but some time or other it comes to us all, just like a clapper shoot, or a squall, or a snake, or a viper, or some such dirt creeping under your shirt, and sliding and slipping right into your brace, and making you as you can't get brace, and it works till you feel your heart rising. God knows what it is, if it isn't poison. You see, we're a roughish set of chaps that's brought up rough on our mammy's laps, and we grow and we run about shouting and fooling till we gets to be lumps and fit for the school, and then We gets to know the marks and the signs, and we leaves the school, and we sticks to the lines, baiting and setting and hauling and that, till we know every fish from a whale to a sprat. And we gets big and strong, for it do make you stronger to row a big boat or to pull at a conger. Then what with a cobbling up of the yawl, and a patching and mending the nets for the trawl, and a rising early and going to bed late, and a dreaming of scallops as big as a plate, and the hooks and the creels and the oars and the gut, you'd say there's no room for a little slut, but howsomedever it's not the case. And a pretty face is a pretty face, and through the whole coil as bright as a star, a girl slips in, and there you are. Well, that was just the way with me. And the girl I'm speaking of, Bethany de Legh. Ah, mates, it's wonderful too, the years you may live dead on end with your eyes and your ears right alongside of the lass that's going to be your sweetheart, and you never knowing. That's the way. For her father and mine was neighbours, and both in the fisherman line, and their cottages stood on the open beach, with a nice bit of garden back of them each. You know the way them houses is fixed, with the pigs and the hens and the children mixed, and the mothers go round when the nights begin and whips up their own, and takes them in. Her father was terrible fond of flowers, and his garden was twice as handsome as ours. A mortal keen eye he had for the varmin, and his talk was always of planting and farming. He had roses hanging above his door, uncommon fine roses they was, to be sure, and the joy of my heart was to pull them there and break them in pieces on Betsy's hair. Not that Betsy was much of a size, at the time I mean, but she had big eyes, so big and so blue and so far asunder, and she looked so solemn. I used to wonder. That was all, just baby play, knocking about the boats all day, and sometimes a lot of us taking hands and racing like mad things over the sands. Ah, it wouldn't be bad for some of us if we'd never gone further and never fared worse, if we'd never grown up and never got big, if we'd never took the brandy swig, if we were skipping and scampering and capering still on the sand that lies below the hill, crunching its grey ribs with the beat of our little pattering naked feet, if we'd just kept childer upon the shore for ever and ever and evermore. Now the beauty of the thing when childer plays is, the terrible, wonderful length of days is. Up you jumps and out in the sun, and you fancy the day will never be done. And you're chasing the bumbies, humming so cross in the hot sweet air among the goss, or gathering bluebells, or looking for eggs, or pelting the ducks with their yellow legs, or a climbing and nearly breaking your skulls, or a shouting for devilment after the gulls, or a thinking of nothing but down at the tide singing out for the happy you feel inside. That's the way with the kids, you know, and the years do come and the years do go, and when you look back, it's all like a puff, happy and over and short enough.
Dollan Kelly was a popular extract from the beginning of T.E. Brown's 1873 poem Bethany de Legh. Dollan Kelly gave his wonderful one-man show of Bethany de Legh at the Manannan Festival in 1992, and then took it on to the Edinburgh Fringe in 1993. Following on from T.E. Brown as the first Manx Bard have been Stacey Astle, John Dog Collister, Sarah Goodwins, Annie Kissack, Zoe Cannell, Owen Atkinson, Michael Manning, Bogsy Closs and Jordan Kenyach, and the current 11th Manx Bard, Bradley Chambers. The Mea Chol, te jichen nachvel recortas en mai sulla junt jay ober na bard en vanen car na blina jane chummeltas ook. Mataju jichen shan feber en nacht, logmus dechid blei na de henne, waar remus on de bardacht. Erich ach foost vai mos liechid blei na de henne, va Vera Martin, Cur Roche Dain and Shiaght Laa, va Tashbana, Kelly, va Dominic Talu de Treol, na va Tachat Sanelin, Acht. Ta Dain ons een mannenach zeer, dag mienish, voos Bard vannen, och verge anesach, clashen en Bard, as hamas shen, de chaglum geelum de ovrachen, bodach ginu arn, Jane Innedegge, shen manxliterature.com, ta lesh cultuur vannen. Och ta unvard vannen, tar ninu recortus nerlier, as shen wegu Bard vannen Annie Kissack. Of the 10 living Manx bards that have been appointed, the only one of whom there seem to be any good recordings available is the 5th Manx bard, Annie Kissack. However, it's hardly that we ever need an excuse to enjoy Annie's poetry.
Keel. Who would know that under this brilliant length of water, under this mountainy reservoir, there lies a keel? Once there was a forest and no water. Once I was searching and trees stood thickly. I was young then before the changes came. From far away the trees were children's triangles, but then I saw shapes, sides, angles, points, all disconnected. Where are the words for the thickness, the greenness, the hard softness on which I walked? Where are the places now where such twistings, scratchings, pullings send you dipping, diving down? I had thought to be with birds and scuttling forest things, but silence came complete. Like a memory of things that are not trees, some stones rose quietly from the moss. A break in the clustering branches let the mist flow in to dance coquettishly around the ruins. 1 foot, maybe 2 foot high, lay grey stones dipped in green, rising faintly rectangular, with gaps where some had fallen or were taken. Here is, or was, a door, and here the altar. I was a child. The stone was cold, the green intense, and simple shapes I understood as I walked beside the walls, a mere splutter of stone from long ago. I thought, who built this thing on a stretch of northern hill? And did he know a forest would grow up around his stones and hide them in its stretching branches, closed, kept, preserved forever? I know now I was wrong about the forest. It was felled, eternal to a child. It was a mere blink of history when the reckoning came. It was cut down, and the hillside left all stubbed and stunted, almost as bare as in the early days before the trees, when a keel was raised. The stones were found and recognised for what they were, measured, mapped. The keel was given a name, and then once more baptised in a flood of water, deep and necessary, heavy and complete. And something that was raised to God was lost and found and lost. And one day, when I am dead and the reservoir has dried up, maybe the keel will be found again by a child and glorified for a minute of time before the coming of the final forest or the last flood.
The 5th Manx Bard, Annie Kissack, and one of her poems called Keel. For World Poetry Day this Saturday, the 21st of March, you can find out more about the poetry from and about the Isle of Man at the website manxliterature.com. And there's also lots to enjoy at the Culture Vannin website, with much more from Annie Kissack, as Phil Gorn with T.E. Brown's The Doctor, and also the whole of that wonderful recording with incidental music and sound effects of Dolan Kelly's performance of Betsy Lee. All that and more besides at culturevannin.im. To celebrate poetry in association with World Poetry Day, though not on this coming Saturday, The Isle of Man Poetry Society will be holding an open mic night for the late night opening of Douglas City Library a week today, Thursday the 26th of March, starting at 7 p.m.
Bethany de Legh Runciman of the Isle of Man Poetry Society. So whilst we have World Poetry Day on the 21st of March, the Isle of Man Poetry Society is working throughout the year.
Oh, yes, yeah. So the Society offers different things for different people. We run a poetry pop-in session at the Archibald Knox. It's always the third Sunday of the month from 7:30 to 9:30, and it's ideal for new poets or people who aren't very confident with their poems, because we don't stand up and speak. It's done round a table, and it's a very informal, friendly evening, and we do offer some advice to people as well about poems. It's a very nice evening. We also have Manx Reflections. These are our biannual anthologies which any paid member of the Society can submit poems into. So if you want to see your poem in print, this is a good place to get it done. So we're on Manx Reflections 21 this year. We're hoping to have a new cover design as well. And as I say, you need to join the Society, which I will give details at the end. We have open mic events in the Poetry Society, and we've just done one at the Columba Club in Douglas. And this summer we tend to go to the Port Erin Arts Centre, so we will be booking an open mic for June and August at the Port Erin Arts Centre. These are small venues, so again, it's not too frightening. If you've never done an open mic before, please just give it a go. The hardest bit is getting up and standing at the mic, but then once you're up there, and we're all very appreciative of what you write, so please come along to that. And we have lots of regular poets as well who come to our open mics. Another thing we run is the Poetry Trail competitions. This one for 2026 has just finished. The poems have been up in February and March. Our next Poetry Trail will take place next year. So the entry forms usually go out about October, November time. The prizes are the poems displayed around Douglas in shop windows, library windows, cafe windows. So again, give it a go if you want to. So the Poetry Society Committee is always in need of new members. So if you think you can add to our committee, we'll be very welcome to have you. So the Isle of Man Poetry Society has undergone a little bit of a change. I've been at the helm for 11 years as chairperson. I've now stepped down and Roger Blore has taken my place. I'm now the treasurer. Hazel has stepped down from treasurer and she's continuing being editor of the Manx Reflections booklets. It's going to take a while for Roger actually to learn everything that I do. Just offhand anyway with the Poetry Society. On another note, Manx Lottery Trust give us a lot of funding. They fund our Manx Reflections booklets and the Poetry Trail. We've also, Roger and I have been working to get some thematic funding from Manx Lottery Trust, and we have got funding to go into the Isle of Man prison. We will be running poetry workshops, 6 of them in the prison from April to June, and that's been funded. We've also been working with Manx Bird Life and looking at swifts. So the swift population is declining in the Isle of Man, and we're working with the Manx Bird Life. We're running some workshops in Victoria Road School in Castletown around the topic of swifts, and then in June, the last Saturday in June, we will be with various organisations to do with conservation, Manx Bird Life in Castletown Square, and the Poetry Society. We will have our table there for people. Well, our World Poetry Day event is on the 26th of March, a Thursday night at Douglas City Library. It's the usual format where we will have it's a bit like an open mic night. It starts at 7 o'clock, finishes at 8:30. We have a £3 entry fee, and that goes towards refreshments. And yeah, the library are very good to let us use that space. So the theme, so there's always a theme for World Poetry Day, but it seems to be the theme as it was last year. It's actually poetry poetry as a bridge for peace and inclusion. And given what's going on in the world at the moment, I think peace and inclusion is a good topic to use. Poets can come along and they can write a themed poem, or if they just bring along some of their own poems as well. So that's one World Poetry Day, but it's the 26th of March, a Thursday night at Douglas City Library. So if you want to get in contact with the Poetry Society, my name is Bethany de Legh Runciman and my email address is poetry@manxcat.org.uk. We also have our chairperson, Roger. His email address is iompsoc@gmail.com. And then we have a website which Roger has set up for us, which is www.isleofmanpoetrysociety.com. Have a look at that as well.
With World Poetry Day coming up on Saturday the 21st, then, have you got any plans of how you're going to spend it yourself?
Oh my gosh. It's a church day for me. It's a church set-up day for me. I've got several hats I wear besides poetry, I must admit, and the church is one thing, and I run a children's church on Sunday mornings, so Saturday mornings are always setting up the children's church. But I will have a go at writing a poem on this theme. I'm not quite sure how it will be or which route I'll go down, but I will try and do something for that for the following Thursday.
Oh, Bethany de Legh Runciman, good my mora. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
The Isle of Man Poetry Society will open mic night, Thursday the 26th of March, starting at 7 p.m. But we'll remind you of that next time. Sineesh Bhushan Shiaght Laa on Sastrai no Show Shiaght Laa. And there we'll leave Shiaght Laa for this week. So now from me, Fiona McArdle, Vom, Fiona McArdle, Sled New.